A hot August gust catches the sails, and the great ship leans before anyone on shore can name the danger. Men on the quay stop cheering. Women clutch children. Bronze cannons stare through open ports just above the water. Then the sea enters the king's masterpiece. On August 10th, 1628, Stockholm watches its proudest warship drown before it even leaves the harbor. How does a ship built to dominate the Baltic sink in full view of its own capital? The afternoon light is hard on the water. Stockholm smells of tar, salt, wet oak, horse sweat, and smoke from cook fires. Above the harbor rises Tre Kronor Castle. Below it lies a city that is still more fortress than capital. Sweden is not the richest kingdom in Europe. It is not the most populous. What it has is discipline, artillery, and a king who thinks like a gambler with a map spread under his hand. Gustavus Adolphus is at war with Poland-Lithuania. He wants ships that can carry Sweden's will across the Baltic and force respect from enemies, allies, merchants, and watching diplomats. In 1625, he signs a contract with the Dutch master shipwright Henrik Hubertsson and his partner Arent de Grote for 4 new warships. One of them is meant to be the largest and most heavily armed ship in northern waters. That ship becomes Vasa. So the hull rises at the Navy Yard in Stockholm. Oak after oak disappears into frames, beams, knees, and planking. In the stern blooms with carved figures, lions, emperors, warriors, angels, royal emblems, all painted in bright color and touched with gold. Vasa is a weapon, but it is also a declaration. It tells every eye in the harbor that Sweden intends to stand among Europe's great powers, whether the old powers approve or not. The guns matter most. Vasa carries 64 cannon, including 48 heavy 24-pounders, spread across 2 full gun decks. A single broadside can throw around 250 kilograms of shot. For a few brief minutes, she is the most powerfully armed ship in the Baltic, perhaps even beyond it. This is the king's preferred future, made wood and bronze. Less boarding, more artillery, less medieval clash, more calculated firepower. But the ship carries a weakness inside her shape. She is too high, too heavily built above the waterline, too burdened in the upper works for the amount of hull below. No one in 1628 possesses the mathematics to predict stability with modern certainty. Shipwrights work by experience, inherited proportion, and judgment. That is usually enough. Here it is not. By the summer of 1628, some men suspect the danger. A stability test is held. 30 men run from side to side across the upper deck. The rolling becomes so violent that the trial is stopped. Vice Admiral Class Fleming reportedly watches in alarm. Yet the ship is not cut down, widened, or rebuilt. The king is away with the army in Prussia. He wants the vessel ready. Few men are eager to tell the Gustavus Adolphus that his magnificent new warship cannot safely sail. That is the sharp contrast at the heart of the story. The strongest man in the kingdom is absent, but his pressure is everywhere. The men nearest the ship are present, worried, and weaker. Seamanship bends before prestige. Survival bends before schedule. Everyone sees part of the problem. No one stops the launch. Sunday comes. Many of the crew take communion that morning. The mood is festive. This first voyage is not a combat run. Families are allowed aboard. Guests come, too, including women and children, because they are meant to disembark at Vaxholm before Vasa continues to the fleet anchorage at Alfsnaben. There she is supposed to await orders connected to the war. The full body of soldiers is not even aboard yet. This is meant to be a beginning under control. Between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, the ship casts off. The harbor is crowded with spectators. Small boats gather to follow the departure. The wind comes from the south, so Vasa must first be warped along the waterfront before she can catch the current. 4 of her 10 sails are set. A salute is fired. The sound rolls off stone and water. For a moment the whole scene looks perfect. Then the ship reaches the open stretch near the bluffs of Sotomalm. There is little wind at first. She drifts awkwardly and answers the helm poorly. A small gust strikes. Vasa heels to port, then slowly rises again. People see it. Sailors feel it. Some aboard know that this movement is wrong. Then near Tegelviken, a stronger gust hits. This time, she goes over farther. Too far. The open lower gun ports dip. Water pours in. The captain orders the sheets loosed and the ports closed, but the sea is faster than command. Inside the ship, ladders tilt. Men fall. Panic breaks where ceremony has just stood. Vice Admiral Erik Jonsson runs below to see whether the guns have broken loose. Some people leap into the harbor. Others claw upward through darkness and angle and noise. Within minutes, Vasa lies on the seabed, about 1,300 meters into her maiden voyage, in 32 meters of water. Her masts remain above the surface for a time, and survivors cling to them. Others are pulled into the little boats that had followed in admiration, and now row through horror. Most aboard survive. About 30 people die, many trapped inside the hull. The shock is immediate. Stockholm has not merely lost a ship. It has suffered a public humiliation. Foreign observers have seen it. Merchants have seen it. Children have seen it. The kingdom that wants to look unstoppable has watched its masterpiece drown before it clears its own skyline. The inquest begins almost at once. The king, furious from Prussia, demands punishment. Captain Sofring Hansen is questioned. Officers are interrogated. Shipwrights are called. Everyone circles the same truth without wanting to seize it. Drunkenness is not the answer. Loose guns are not the answer. The ballast is not the whole answer. The answer is design. But design leads upward, and upward leads toward royal ambition. Henrik Hubertsson, the original master shipwright, is already dead. Hein Jakobsen, who finishes the vessel, says he follows the approved design. The builders insist the ship matches plans that carry the king's blessing. In the end, no one is formally punished. Expert witnesses, even without modern engineering, understand the basic problem. As one of them effectively says, the ship does not have enough belly to carry her high and heavy upper works. Yet the state cannot easily confess that its own hunger for greatness is built into the failure. And still, Sweden does not collapse. The war continues. The kingdom keeps rising. That matters, because later generations turn Vasa into a simple parable of madness. The real lesson is harder. Great powers do not always fail because they lack ambition. Sometimes they fail because nobody dares tell ambition that the hull is wrong. Years later, divers recover many of the valuable bronze guns with a diving bell. Then the wreck sinks into darkness and mud. The cold, brackish, low-oxygen water preserves the oak for centuries. In 1961, after a patient salvage operation, Vasa rises again. Crowds gather. Water streams from the timbers. The ship returns to daylight after 333 years. Today she still stands in Stockholm inside the Vasa Museum, enormous, dark, scarred, and almost impossibly intact. You can look up at the stern carvings, the gun ports, the oak frames that cannot carry the king's ambition, and feel the whole argument of the 17th century still locked inside the wood. Force against judgment. Prestige against seamanship, survival against command. The ship that sinks on day one does not vanish. It remains, physically present, as proof that even a rising empire can build disaster into its own masterpiece and call it glory until the water comes in.